Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, especially taking a look at this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, because we continue to trade in this descending channel on the 4-hour time frame. So since yesterday, we actually got another bounce from the bottom of this descending channel, from this level of support right here. As of the time of recording, sitting at about 62.8k. And in the case that you do see Bitcoin trading to the top of this range once again, as of the time of recording, this level of resistance is sitting at 65.6k. So these are two important price levels to pay attention to in the short term here. However, I do want to be clear that we are trading inside a weekend. And as you can already see right here, ever since we started trading inside this weekend, the volatility has been extremely low, which would be until right about here in the chart where it starts on Monday again. And I do expect to see a lot more volatility from that point. However, for now, we can basically just expect the price to trade sideways. So in terms of some Fibonacci levels of support and resistance to pay attention to as well, above the current price, we have the 0.5 Fibonacci level sitting at 65.2k. And then below the current price, we have the 0.382 Fibonacci level sitting at 63.2k. So those are, again, two important price levels to pay attention to, potentially already during this weekend. But like I said, I expect to see very low volatility here. So potentially it could be on Monday that you need to start paying attention to these price levels. So besides that, I also want to give a bit of an update on this hidden bearish divergence that we have seen in the charts last week, early last week. And actually I confirmed this hidden bearish divergence right here at about 67,000 US dollars. And of course, since then, we have seen a lot of bearish momentum in the price here. But I do want to say that usually they last for a couple of days, and now this has already been a week. So I do want to kind of give a fair notice here that potentially this hidden bearish divergence could already be fully played out, and that there is now basically more room to go to the upside. But of course, for that to happen, we need to see some more technical analysis actually line up with that, because in the broader trend here, if we just zoom out a little bit, we are still clearly in this downtrend. So unless we see a clear reversal signal or the ETFs buying massive amounts of Bitcoin in next week, basically, until we see something like that, I do expect the trend to continue to be downwards. Although one thing that is noteworthy here on the 1 week time frame is actually the bull market support band, because right now you can see that Bitcoin is actually testing this bull market support band, which as of the time of recording is sitting at 64.1k all the way down to 61.3k. And so long as we hold the bull market support band, I think this uptrend will just continue, and this will just be seen as a decently long consolidation phase for Bitcoin, which is basically to be expected after we saw this massive pump to the upside, right? So it's not weird to see this price action. But if we start losing this as a level of support, so like I said, trading below about that 61.2k level, and of course this does trend up over time, but if we start trading below this level, I think this will be a serious warning signal for Bitcoin. And just to be clear, this is what I'm talking about right here. So we saw the 13% drop to the downside after breaking below the bull market support band. Now, what happened the time before that? Well, it was actually the end of the entire bull market, and we got an 80% move down in Bitcoin. And of course, altcoins went down 80 to 90 or 95%. And the time before that, we actually saw a 36% move to the downside after breaking the bull market support band. And we already got a big move to the downside before then, right? So that is why I'm saying that it is critical that we actually pay attention to what is happening around this bull market support band here. And if you start to see Bitcoin losing this as a level of support, in that case, you need to start flipping more bearish. But keep in mind that you should be looking at this on the weekly time frame, because on the daily time frame, you can just get a wick below and then trade back inside the range. But then on the weekly time frame, it would just look like we're holding this as a level of support. So that is just something to keep in mind. So since there's low volatility, there are basically only 3 price levels to pay attention to on this 4-hour time frame, on this chart at least. So you have this short-term level of support sitting at about 63.6k, which so far, as I talked about in my recent videos, we got a perfect bounce from this short-term level of support. So that was great to see. However, the bullish momentum isn't really there. And of course, we are trading inside a weekend. So yeah, I am expecting to see a little bit more sideways price action here. However, on Monday, if you start to see the price break below this level, in that case, the next big level of support, besides the Fibonacci levels, is actually this big level right here from 62.4K all the way down to 60,000 US dollars. And in terms of resistance to the upside, we have this big level of resistance right here from 65 all the way up to 66,000. Now, lastly, before I move on with the Bitcoin analysis, if you are new to the channel here and you haven't joined the crypto community yet, the Road to 1 Million community on Discord, it's completely free to join and you can join it with the first link in the description. So there's people trading crypto here every single day, as well as sharing their technical analysis. And I also share my own trading signals from time to time, which you can get access to for free by going to this trading signals access channel and just following these 3 steps right here. So again, you can go check that out. Now, moving on with the Bitcoin analysis here, let's first take a look at the 24-hour time frame. And this is exactly what you should be expecting here when there's so little volatility, is you will have some liquidity to the upside and to the downside. So this chart right here isn't really telling us much, and therefore we should be zooming out to a higher time frame and taking a look at the 1 month time frame. Then you can see that there is still a decent amount of liquidity to the downside right here, about $1 billion, $1.5 billion actually, sitting at 63.1K. So this could definitely be a level that the price gets attracted to, for example, next week, because it is already so close to the current price. However, as you can see, most of the liquidity is in fact to the upside. So potentially, if you see that big move down next week, well, after sweeping all of this liquidity right here, there is basically only liquidity to the upside left. So you have about $1 billion sitting at 67.6K, another $1 billion sitting at 70.5K, and then about $2 billion sitting at 72.3K. So these are massive levels of liquidity that could attract the Bitcoin price, for example, next week. Now moving on to Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame, which is basically still just playing out this bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart, like I said. And basically what this indicates here is, of course, we saw a lot of bearish momentum in the short term. And then when confirming this bullish divergence, there's basically 2 ways this can play out. Either you get some choppy sideways price action, or you can get some bullish momentum in the short term. But it would be uncharacteristic to see a sudden drop in price here unless you see Bitcoin doing the same thing. And besides that, taking a look at the Fibonacci levels, you can see that we have this Fibonacci resistance sitting at about $4,000 and this Fibonacci support sitting at about 3330. So now moving on to the support and resistance levels to pay attention to for ETH. Well, right now, Ethereum is just in this big level of support, sitting from 3530 all the way down to 3430. So that is important to pay attention to. And again, if you see the price trading below, then we have that 0.618 Fibonacci level sitting at 3330. So those are some levels to pay attention to. But just like Bitcoin, I do expect the price to be basically just trading sideways for the remainder of this weekend. And then we see what happens on market open. Now, in terms of resistance to the upside, we do have this short-term level of resistance sitting at 3650. So that is again another level to pay attention to for Ethereum. And besides that, we are still in this RSI downtrend on the 4-hour time frame. So if you see that price moving higher, for example, early next week, then this could be an interesting trend line to pay attention to. Because, for example, if you see another rejection from here, then as soon as it gets rejected, you can already assume that we are likely going lower in the price action and potentially get another, for example, leg to the downside here. But in the case that you see this breakout start to happen on the RSI, well, in that case, likely we are going higher for Ethereum and we are actually breaking this downtrend here. And I'm not just talking about the RSI, I'm also talking about this downtrend in general for Ethereum. And sometimes you'll even see the RSI break out to the upside before you actually see Ethereum actually break this downtrend right here. So that is just something to keep in mind and something that I am personally looking out for as well. So now moving on to Solana on this 4-hour time frame, we do have this bullish divergence playing out. And typically, just like Bitcoin, what you get is either some choppy sideways price action or you get a little bit of bullish momentum. And so far, we have basically just been seeing choppy sideways price action for Solana here, but not a massively strong downtrend or something like that. So I guess for now, this is playing out. But again, I would say the same thing as for Ethereum. make sure to pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing, because Bitcoin is currently leading the market, in the sense that if you see Bitcoin pumping to the upside, likely Solana is going to follow the same. But I would pay attention to this Fibonacci level of resistance sitting at $138, because if the price is trading above this, well, as soon as you see this bounce here, you could be expecting the price to potentially go up to this 152 level for Solana. So that is something positive to potentially look forward to. But of course, if you get a rejection from that level, then yeah, it has much more bearish implications. Either way, I do think we should be taking a look at this trend line right here as well on the 4-hour time frame, because we are still in this clear downtrend. However, especially with this sideways price action here that I do expect for the remainder of this weekend, well, in that case, we will already be very close. So for example, this right here is Monday. We will already be very close to potentially breaking out or getting rejected from this trend line right here. So I do think that early next week, there is the potential for a break of this downtrend for Solana, especially if we get some nice inflows in the Bitcoin ETFs, for example. Now moving on to the support and resistance levels for Sol. So right now, Solana basically bounced a little bit from this big level of support, sitting from 133 all the way down to 125. So this is important to pay attention to. And then secondly, if you see the price trading to the upside here, well, there is this big level of resistance sitting from 140 all the way up to $150 for the price of Solana. This has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And I will see you tomorrow in the next one.